Sure?
I think we're live.
You sure?
We're not
I don't
100%
know.
sure. Guys, if we're live, let us know in the chat.
Think we are.
Supposedly we're live. Hopefully the resolution is okay. We kind of had a bit of trouble with that when we first started setting this up. So hopefully everything's good. Hello, Sailing Vinyasa.
Yay!
Hey guys.
And hi, Alan and Kirsten. So we wanted to do a little bit of a live stream.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Give everybody a bit of an update on what's going on here in Bahamas, as well as what's going on with us. Sorry if the lighting's changing. The sun is going down, so we are going to have to flick on some of our little lights here to keep things lit up. And this light is right in our face, so we might be squinting a little bit, but that's just the situation we're in right now.
Mm-hmm. So right now we're actually in Black Key in the Exumas, still in the Bahamas. Actually, that might come as a bit of a surprise for the people following us only on YouTube if you haven't really been on our other social media, because we are pretty much 5 months behind on videos.
Roughly 5 months. Which we're in the process, since we're fairly boat bound recently with all of this going on. We're trying our best to get ahead on videos so that we can, ideally we want to push out 2 15-minute videos a week rather than just doing a slightly longer 20 to a half hour video per week, only one of them. So we're going to see if that helps. We'd like to kind of speed along our process so we're not quite as behind, as well as give all of you a little bit more stuff to watch while everybody's stuck at home.
Yeah, and hi Safet Zajic. Oof, I hope I didn't destroy that name. I'm sorry.
Hey Caroline.
And by the way, we're doing really good. Oh. Might be some trouble.
Okay, so if the stream isn't super smooth, we might not have the right settings here. We're kind of new to the whole streaming thing, so I might fiddle with the settings a little bit and see if we can get it a little better.
But yeah, we're doing really good and we're healthy, good health, good spirits, trying to be anyways, in those interesting times. But yeah, we wanted to do that live stream, that's it, to update you on a bunch of different things. So really our days lately, we've been doing a lot of spending the morning doing some editing for you and spending our afternoon doing some snorkeling and fishing. Because, well, the sea has lots of fish and it's really good. We've been catching lots of lobsters, but now the season is over.
Ooh.
They were so good.
We had a good season of spearing lobsters and tickling lobsters, and mostly thanks to our friends Sailing Vinyasa, who've really been with us a lot of this time, and we've been able to learn a lot from Cody on that boat, and he's a really good fisherman, so we've really gained a lot from having our buddy boat, and we've had a lot of meals together and been able to share our fish catch. On that note, we kind of use each other quite a bit because their fridge doesn't quite work up to par. Their batteries are having trouble, so our fridge is able to keep things cool.
And we have the fillet knife.
Yeah, their fillet knife broke, so we've been sharing some of these things. And luckily, well, as we'll discuss a little further later, we actually, ever since coming to the Bahamas, we no longer have an engine. So that's...
Yeah, since January 25th, 26th, no engine, only sails.
Yeah, which has been really good to learn how to sail better and improve our skills, but we're certainly grateful to have a buddy boat with an engine in case we really need it.
So we kind of complement each other's, and we've been hanging out together for almost a month now, I'd say. Not quite.
Hey to everybody joining the stream, Old Guy on a Bike, SV Lucas, Havana Orange.
Yeah.
Hi Craig.
And everyone from Port Colborne.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you guys coming and joining the conversation here.
And we might be eating a lot of lobsters, Kirsten, but we don't really have much fresh produce. Actually, this morning I got really excited about an orange because it was my first fruit in 3 weeks, I think.
You should have seen the smile on her face. I'm pretty sure she hasn't smiled that much in a while anyway.
I love fruits.
So, I mean, that's kind of, I mean, we've been moving around the Bahamas quite a bit.
Hey, salut Jean-Michel! Jim!
Up till now, up till recently, we haven't been super affected by the whole virus. And I guess it's about time that it's caught up with us, because that's essentially what it seems like it's done.
Yeah.
Bahamas is really cracked down on some of its laws, which, you know, I understand completely. This is something dangerous, and we really got to be careful in these times. Oh, wow.
Wow.
Thank you so much for the super chat. Wow. Cheers.
So we would be cheering with alcohol, but liquor stores in the Bahamas have closed. So
yeah, unfortunately,
cheers
we're
with water.
Liquor free here in the Bahamas. It's not the best, but we're dealing with what we can do.
But pretty much, so we sailed all over quite a few islands in the Bahamas. We were in Bimini first. This is where we checked in. Then the engine died, so we kind of used the wind. Made it to Andros Island. Had some good times there. Then we hopped over, heading more to the east. So like New Providence Island. Had tons of fun in Eleuthera. And then we met our buddy boat in Rock Sound, which is in the south of Eleuthera. And then we kind of hopped over to the Exumas. So at that point, we still... I don't think we even had heard much about the virus when we were in Eleuthera, which is about a month ago.
I mean, it was in China, but there was like not many cases in a lot of other places. I mean, you guys probably all know just what the situation was a month ago and how fast it has changed. Here in the Bahamas, we now have 25 cases and 1 death. Lucky for us, they're mostly in the north, so they're a little bit further from us. But supposedly, I guess it's we should kind of expect that it's potentially everywhere at this point, especially since not everybody shows symptoms. So it's very probable that it's in other places. If you're seeing the lighting change here, it's because our boat is swaying on anchor, so we're kind of blocking our face with the Dodger here every once in a while. So sorry about that.
Yeah, and then that's how we got in the Exumas, and so actually we didn't have any internet for a little bit, so we had no idea what was going on or the progression of it. And then we started hearing a little bit more about it when we got to the Land and Sea National Park and started meeting. Actually, that's where we ran into more people all of a sudden, and then it's like, woo, okay, that might start being serious. And then next thing we know, when we're in Black Point, we went to go get some fresh water and try to buy a couple different produce and things. And that's where it really hit us, because we realized that the restaurant which had the water for cruisers was actually shut down. He wasn't really allowed to serve people. So that's when we were really like, okay, we've got to readjust all of our plans, because we were going to keep traveling all over the place. But in the Bahamas right now, there's no inter-island cruising allowed.
Unless it's for safe harbor or to resupply, get gas, fuel, groceries.
Essential needs,
yeah, that sort of thing. There's also a 24-hour curfew, which is slightly confusing because you're still allowed to shore for these things. But essentially, if anybody is out after 9, especially, it seems to be a pretty big. I think there's quite
it's like a
$10,000
$10,000 fine. We're not that rich.
Yeah, we can't afford that one.
Yeah. So it's been really interesting trying to understand all of the different regulations in the Bahamas, which they might be changing from one island to another. So we pretty much decided to run towards Georgetown because we knew that there would be good supplies from what we had heard: water, propane, gas, everything we needed. So after stopping here in Black Key, we did a bit of a quick run to Georgetown to get all of those essential needs that we needed to, because we don't have a water maker, so water is the main thing that we really need to fill up on whenever we can.
Yeah. Hello, Polly D, and
Hey.
Alan Loves Music. We actually didn't get a chance to see Dallas. We wanted to go down to the Ragged Islands, but again, because of this lockdown and no inter-island travel, I mean, it's even difficult just to travel around, or it's probably frowned upon even just to travel around like we have been. But we really did not want to stay in Georgetown, and for a few reasons, which we'll get into a little bit more later, but mostly just because we wanted to self-quarantine in a place where there was less people, and that just seemed like a better thing to do. Hey, Mom.
Hey. Yeah, and also we really want to send all of our sympathy to friends and families, or families of the that have members that have passed away, like our dear friends on sailing Vinyasa, because this virus is just it's a bit of a serious thing. So we just want to send all of our love to everyone out there.
Yeah, it's a hard time for everyone, but especially those that have been affected by this, either through a death or just have had somebody in their family that has it. It's really not. It's not a joke, and we really feel for everybody that has gone through anything. And I mean, our situation, though we might complain about it at times, I mean, we're obviously in a beautiful spot, but now we're a little bit more boat-bound, but it's nothing compared to what some other people and families have to deal with, and we understand that, and we really, our hearts go out to you. We also, I mean, we'd really like to thank the people that are taking care of these people, the healthcare workers, as well as even the essential workers that are keeping us all fed and as healthy as we can be in these times, in these really hard times, right?
Hi, Graham and Sandra.
Oh, hey guys. All right.
Yeah. So that's it. We've left Georgetown and we are back in Black Key right now, which is only like a half day sail away, just because here it's very quiet, more secluded. We have all the fishing we want.
That's something. Yeah, I mean, we have enough supplies, I think, to last. Other than water, we have roughly 3 to 4 months of supplies, so that should get us through a decent amount of time. And we also have quite a bit of water. I mean, we have at least 3 weeks of water, maybe 4 if we were to stretch it, but at least we're still able to fill up our water. It would be nice that to have had a water maker before all this happened, but of course we can't
predict everything.
Yeah, we can't know what's going to happen in the future. As we'll talk a little bit in the future, very soon, our plans have changed, I don't know, 10 times since we started this trip, especially since getting to the Bahamas, because of this virus, as well as our engine issues. Just there's been a lot of changing in plans, and with the virus especially, everything is changing on a day-to-day basis. So even some of the things we're telling you might not even be accurate anymore. So I mean, everything is changing so fast. So it's really difficult to say for sure, well, this is the situation here, and this is what's going to be the situation for the next week, because literally almost every day there's new announcements on things that have changed and adjustments. I mean, as an example, something that happened very recently was Eleuthera essentially decided that they were not allowing people on land even for supplies. You could go to a dock to get those supplies, but that was the only way you were able to do it. So you had to make arrangements with the people on land to get either water, fuel, or groceries, and then pick them up at the dock. So things are definitely getting tighter, just like a lot of other places in the world. And we'll get into some of that as well, stories we've heard and things that just are more difficult to deal with as cruisers, for sure.
And I know we've been posting some pictures of pretty beautiful things and all that, and sometimes I almost don't want to post them because I don't want to make anyone envious or jealous. But I mean, it's a little bit why we also have been staying in the Bahamas, just because it's so beautiful here, and it feels like it's a little further away from all the craziness that's happening around the world. So we wanted to try to keep ourselves a bit more secluded and in a nice environment. We're not doing as much exploring as I would have hoped. I love walking, hiking, and all that, and going caving and all those things, which since the curfew and all the regulations have been put in order, we haven't been really doing any of it. Pretty much dealing with more water activities, staying on the boat, and our little beach right next to us, which we've been only there once.
Yeah, I mean, especially lately,
Yeah.
now that we know we're not allowed on land, we're not really going there anymore. Hey Seth, nice to see you. And
And also, Jim, we have a 48-gallon water tank under our bed, and we have 3 5-gallon jerry cans. So that gives us quite a bit of water. I mean, we're using water for dishes, but rinsing everything with salt water first. So we're trying to not use too much. Maybe not showering as much as we would normally.
yeah, I guess we're a bit dirty sailors at times.
Salty. Very
We're salty sailors, but I mean a damp rag or a bit of soap goes a long way without having a full-on proper shower.
Yeah. So I mean, we lasted 2 weeks very comfortable. So right now we might just be trying to stretch it out a little bit longer, just so that we don't have to go back to civilization as much as possible. Because, like, we were in Georgetown the other day for all the supplying, like we've said, and we're supposed to keep 6 feet apart, but it seems like not everyone is taking it very seriously, and we don't want to infect anyone if we do have something, and we don't want to get infected either, because I mean the facilities here aren't as you don't find them in all of the islands, so we want to try to stay as safe as possible. I mean, we did spend pretty much 14 days before we even made it back to civilization, just because we have a lot of food and water on board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're trying to stay as safe as possible.
Yeah, I mean, given the scenario anyway. Yeah, remember to smash that like button, like Alan says. Thanks for reminding everybody and ourselves, actually. And yeah, taking a dip in the ocean really, does get away some of that.
Every single day.
A little bit of that smell, anyway.
I go swim with my neighbor, the barracuda.
Yeah.
And hi, Krista.
Hey.
Miss you too.
So, we also wanted to kind of give a bit of an idea of like why we didn't want to stay in Georgetown. We kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but we needed to go to Georgetown first off for supplies, as we already mentioned. But the issues we were noticing in Georgetown, like we only stayed the one day just to resupply and left the next day. But the issues I guess we were seeing was, well, actually you can speak towards the social distancing, because myself and Cody went to fill up all of our water, and they went to the store, which had a lot more people.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, we kind of tried between the 4 of us, as us and our buddy boat. We tried to divide and conquer so that we would be there for the least amount of time possible. So myself and Theresa from Vinyasa, we went to the grocery store. That was our big mission of trying to get as much produce, fresh stuff as we could, and a couple non-perishable things. Although we do have quite a bit on board. The nice thing about going to the Bahamas is that, well, we knew we wouldn't really have access, or things would be a little bit more expensive. So before we left the US, we had tons of provisions, which was really, really good. That was a good thing to have done even before knowing all about the virus. And so her and myself went to the grocery store, and it's pretty much you're pretty much touching skin with people as you're walking. We kind of made ourselves some little mask and had some gloves to try to just not infect anyone if we did have something, and to not get anything from anyone else, so we were just trying to be as safe as possible. But I mean, you know that it's just not being taken as seriously over there, I guess. It depends.
Even though there's laws and
Yeah.
like there's strict things saying you're only allowed so many people in the stores for so much square footage, and I mean, like you said, the bank.
The bank was much more regulated. There was signs showing where you should stand and wait, so that was kind of good, because I mean, it is spreading. It might be here or not in the Exumas, not entirely sure, but we're just trying to stay healthy and away from all of that. So we went in the store and got out as soon as we were done, and just washed everything after.
Yeah, I mean, you should have seen the girls. They were essentially washing everything, you know, sanitizing every bag, every piece of fruit, essentially everything that came out of the store was sanitized. And when you're around lots of people that don't seem to really like, I mean, I guess it kind of gives you an ease of mind, like, oh, well, maybe it's not as bad here. But the rules are set in place, I would assume, for reasons, you know. And when you're in a place with lots of people, our biggest concern is, well, like, what if there was an outbreak and people were very nonchalant about the rules, and then all of a sudden we're stuck in a place, or we're in this place where there's an outbreak and we can't really necessarily get good hospital help or anything like that. So it definitely made us uneasy, I guess, and that's why, again, we wanted to do the short day sail to our little secluded anchorage here and be a little bit more away from all of that.
Yeah, it was a little bit more of a stressful environment, I guess, and just realize a little bit more how, I mean, it's the virus is there and all of that, and so that's a little bit why we also wanted to come back, just to be in our little peaceful environment that's only the two sailboats together and very, very few other people. Hey, Beth.
Oh, hey.
We're good.
And hello, Snoopy. So yeah, I mean, we already touched on. We got a little notepad here, just so we touch all the bases, I guess, that we wanted to touch. We're really not used to the whole live stream. Actually, this is a record for us, 24 to 25 people watching. Thank you guys all for being here. I really appreciate it. And the comments are great. You know, it's nice to actually communicate face to face. We do keep seeing a buffer show up on our screen, and it's saying we're not potentially not getting enough video. So I really hope that it's actually watchable right now. But you know, internet here is kind of touch and go.
Yeah. And I mean, while we were in Georgetown, there was also the cruiser net that really kind of.
You know what? Before we talk about the cruiser net, Alan wants to see the anchorage a little bit, and I think I can pull it off just for a second. As the sun is going down, we will rotate it. And there's the sunset, sort of.
The end of it.
And I mean, I can't really show you all the way around. It is difficult with the laptop. But
a laptop that went swimming in the water. Yeah. So it's got to be connected.
Yeah, there's no battery. But there's no battery essentially, so it's always got to be plugged in. But that's the rough idea of what's going on here.
That's our home.
Oh, thanks, Krista, for letting us know how the video and sound was. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's good. Nice to know. But yeah, as I was starting to talk a little bit about, there was the cruiser net in Georgetown, which we were really looking forward to. And I mean, it was nice to see how the net is actually connecting everyone in the anchorage, because there was, I'd say, over 100 sailboats for sure.
Which isn't very many based on what we've heard, and because everybody or most people are heading north to get out of this, to go back home to the States. Most people are heading back to the States.
Yeah.
I guess the issue with that I mean, actually, you know what? We're getting into plans later. I'm getting too far ahead of myself, Corey. Step back. All right.
When they are
focus.
But yeah, so it was just good to hear how they're connecting everyone and all that, but it also made you really realize how the virus is real and how people are stuck on their boat. They haven't had any contact with that many people, and it just makes you a little depressed. Actually, it made me a little bit more depressed. Even like the other day, we had posted something in the sailing forum, just trying to see what everyone's doing in preparation for hurricane season, and we're trying to think ahead and all of that. And but really reading about all those comments and all of that, it really made me bummed out. I had 2 days that I was just, I don't know, and even though I was in this beautiful environment, I was just still kind of depressed and stressed and felt a little bit at loss and not too sure what to do, where to go, and trying to plan and all of that. So it's just nice to sometimes withdraw yourself from that connection to everyone and society. I mean, we really want to stay up to date with what's happening and all that, but sometimes too much of it, or being too much on Facebook and all that, it can really drain you down. You let other people's opinions and beliefs it's hard to stay connected with all of that. So I've tried to withdraw myself from a little bit of it and not read everything, just go and get my information and then focus on taking care of the boat, feeding myself, and all of those things.
I mean, you guys, I'm sure everybody here in the chat can relate, because Facebook, especially recently, has just been filled with the virus talk, and it can definitely weigh on your mind. I mean, as she said, I wrote a post to get some people's opinions, and a lot of them, I got a lot of different good opinions, but I got some very negative stuff that really made us, kind of second guess some of our decisions. Yeah. And of course, there's always the people that you believe, well, what you're doing is irresponsible, you should be heading home, or whatever else. But again, we'll get into what we had planned and how our plans changed very shortly.
And yes, you'll see the solar in hopefully not too many more months.
Yeah, it's coming up in the videos. As we said, for those that are just tuning in, we are like 5 months behind. So we're going to make sure to try to produce as many videos as we can during this crisis, since we're more boat bound, and ideally get out 2 videos a week, even if they're a little bit shorter, just to kind of move it along.
And another tricky thing about Georgetown was also, I mean, everyone's supposed to practice the self-isolation, which is good it's really good to like stop the spread of the virus and all of that. But as we've mentioned in the beginning, we have been doing a bit of that isolation with our buddy boat, because we met each other before this whole thing came to reality into our own lives. Anyways, it was still already on the go. We just weren't really aware of the extent of it, I guess.
And we consider ourselves family. Like, we've been eating supper every day. We catch fish together, and then we eat the fish together. And essentially, like, we are a catamaran on 2 separate hulls that aren't connected. That's kind of the way we're thinking.
Yeah.
I know that's, essentially we're trying to make up, I guess, reasons for why we shouldn't have to follow the rules exactly, but we're not infecting anybody else, and we're being more cautious than I'd say anybody we've seen.
Lots of people.
But anyway, I mean, that's just the situation we're in, and as we've told you before, there's reasons for us to want to stick together.
But in Georgetown, you weren't really allowed to go from boat to boat, which totally makes sense. You shouldn't be going and socializing with people you've never met, which is a shame. It would have been fun
awesome.
to be. Yeah. Like, we've heard so many awesome comments about Georgetown, and we really wanted to go there. But I mean, we did. Maybe next year.
Yeah, that's it. There's always next year. I mean, we can't do anything about it this year, but that's the way it's gonna have to be.
Yeah. So I mean, that's with all those reasons, we really wanted to get away from Georgetown and come back to where we were just before we headed there, so that we're still very close to Georgetown to go get supplies, water, and all of that. But it's also way easier for us to do our isolation here. We find, anyways. It's just there's nobody here compared to the other anchorages.
And actually, we'll get into a little bit more about, our feelings around the whole Georgetown vibe a little later when we talk about some of the stories that we've encountered. One of them is, I guess, what happened to us in Georgetown and what made us kind of full to stick around there too much longer. But that'll come a little bit later. But I think we're on to plans now, right?
Yeah.
Because I keep alluding to plans.
Oh.
But plans don't really happen, as most of you know. When you're a cruiser, that's just plans aren't really plans. They constantly change. But I think more so than ever now that we have this virus going around. And oh man, thanks so much, Alan.
Wow.
Thanks. That's you're too awesome. Yeah, Alex will be really happy to buy some fruits with that.
Oh yes, that's for sure. We'll go back in Georgetown in 2-3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
So our initial plan was essentially to sail the Bahamas.
Back in September.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, get to the Bahamas, spend 3 months here, spend our whole cruising duration because we only got 3 months. We didn't do the full year, and then head back to Cuba, Jamaica, basically
The
make
Western
our way.
Caribbean
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And then before hurricane season, make our way to something outside the hurricane belt on the south side. Ideally, is what we wanted to
So
do.
like Mexico, Guatemala, somewhere over there. We're trying to go to places which were not as much into the whole cruising world. Actually, we weren't even sure about the Bahamas at first because everyone was going there, so we didn't even want to go there. But then we're actually really, really happy we did because it's incredible, like beautiful water, beaches, caves, and everything. So that was kind of the initial plan of doing this kind of travel before everything happened. And then January 26th happened.
So cruising across from Bimini, we made it to Bimini at least with our engine, and then we cruised across from Bimini to, well, the plan originally was to cruise to
The berries.
Berries, thank you.
Yeah.
But our engine we turned off our engine just to have some peace and quiet while we decided to eat a nice supper
With sunset.
with our friends actually at the time that were on our sailboat.
Mel and Katie.
And then when I went to start it up after supper, it wouldn't start. And it hasn't started since.
No.
So we essentially, in very light wind, made our way to Andros because the wind direction was not allowing us to go to the Berries very easily.
No.
And that's where we spent another few weeks,
2-3 weeks. Yeah.
kind of stuck there because of weather.
And wanting to explore the island as well.
Yeah. Oh, see you later, Craig. Thanks for
Bye.
stopping in. Appreciate it. So anyway, we were in Andros for a little while, and so that's when we started rethinking our plans again, because if we're stuck with no engine, we kind of started thinking, well, maybe it would be smart to maybe go back
To the US.
Yeah, because parts, essentially, when we looked into them, here would take 6 to 8 weeks to get here, and we didn't 100% know what parts we needed. So, I mean, since then we've kind of come to figure out a few of the issues, and we have a better idea of what we need to do. But essentially, the rest of our duration of our stay would have been to wait for parts to show up to wherever we happen to ship them. And that just didn't seem like a very good option.
No, so that's why we were thinking of going back to the US and trying to get maybe a machine shop and just having access to more supplies and different services that might be required to fix the engine. And then from there, depending what was actually needed to be fixed and how much it would cost, we were either gonna carry on and keep traveling or haul out the boat in the US for hurricane season and then go back to Canada, work hard, make more money to then fly back to the US and keep on traveling.
Yeah. And essentially that all changed again when the virus came and started getting more and more serious. We saw what was going on in the US and around the world, and at the time I think there wasn't even a case yet here in Bahamas.
No.
So we thought, well, maybe it would be better to just stay here because we're away from the virus and we can just, I mean, not that I thought we could ride it out, but I thought like maybe things would, calm down, or at least we wouldn't get sick because we weren't like in the vicinity of where the virus was.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it got progressively worse. There was one case here, then there was 5 cases, and so on and so forth.
Up to the 25 that apparently are here right now.
And go ahead.
Yeah, so then we're like, okay, well, we'll stay in the Bahamas for as long as possible up until hurricane season really kicks in, and then we kind of gotta get out of here, really. So then we started talking about either trying to...
Before hurricane season, we gotta get out of
here.
Yeah.
So then we started talking about maybe sailing to Cuba or Mexico, because the US has just been going crazy. Florida's actually closed up right now, so we can't really go to Florida. I mean, the rest of the US is still open to Canadians as long as you do your quarantine.
For now.
But, for now. But it's still it's kind of crazy going there because there's so many cases that I don't really know if I want to risk getting sick or something.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely makes us nervous, even though, there's better medical service and stuff there. Comparing to here, it doesn't make me feel super good about exposing ourselves to the virus so much more. But I mean, that's kind of the decision we made so far. And I mean, obviously it's getting worse, so our plans are constantly changing. And I mean, more recently, we've even thought of sailing all the way back to Canada. If we have to avoid the US entirely, well, we may need to do that and only use it as a safe harbor if we need it for, a storm or something. Because from my research now, this could change because it seems like a lot of countries are passing laws and doing things that are completely different than what I've done research on and what some people have told me. But I think it's maritime law, states that you can, even if you're not allowed in the country, you're not allowed to set foot in the country and you haven't checked in, you can still go into a port or go in somewhere and anchor to have a safe anchorage during a storm or during an emergency, if your engine goes, as an example, or something like that. I mean, if that's the situation, it's only going to be mostly for, heavy winds and if there's, something drastic is going wrong. But that's just one of the options that we're playing around with. I mean,
we still have quite a few months in the Bahamas without having to quite have to run away from the hurricane, which is nice.
But again, everything's changing so fast. Like, you look at some countries, just a couple weeks ago, I was looking at some countries that were more south and they were open and now they're closed. But that being said, I think if you communicate with these countries, often they're closed or they're having a quarantine, or sorry, they have a lockdown, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But often you can still enter those countries with a quarantine of 14 days. So that's an option as well, as long as things don't change and end up on like the worst end of things, like some of the stories that I've heard and such. Which again we'll get into a little bit later, not to save all the fear and all the stuff at the end, but it's just, I guess we want to share some of the stories at the end of what we've been hearing and stuff to give you an idea of, like, I guess why we're feeling this way and why we're more nervous and maybe stressed at times in regards to this whole virus, and want to give you an idea of where our head's at, I guess, when we're making our decisions.
And I mean, right now we also have our cruising permit expires on the 20th of April. But the immigration is kind of closed up everywhere because Bahamas is in full lockdown. They're not allowing anyone in. So we have to apply online for an extension, which I applied and hopefully we'll get it. Shouldn't be any issue, and then that would give us more time here anyways. But yeah, it's always a little tricky. Like, plans are changing every single day, so we're just trying to take it all in and not stress too much about it either, because really stress is like one of the worst things, and that's what's happening all over the world. That stress and that fear makes you sick even without the virus.
Yeah.
So we've got to all take time to just relax a little bit, talk with the people you love, and just try to do things you enjoy doing at home. And I mean, all the things we've been making excuses to not do because you want to go out and do some snowboard in the winter or go swimming in here. Well, now is a good time to do all those things. Yeah.
So some of the concerns, I guess, that have come to mind as we're approaching hurricane season, well, essentially that's one of the concerns, is that we're in a country that's affected by hurricanes. And essentially right now it's not looking like there's a whole lot of places to go to get out of that. There are some, but the options are becoming more minimal every day.
As every single country closes their doors.
Yeah. And I mean, just like Jean just said, you know, sorry?
Jim.
Oh, anyway, rules are changing by the day,
Yeah.
even on land or at people's homes. So, I mean, you can imagine it's going to do the same thing here as a cruiser. And Alan, actually, I verified that it's not my electrical. So, and I'll get, maybe we'll do an update. There's definitely going to be videos on the engine in the future. It's just I don't want to get too much into the engine right now.
There's been a lot of troubleshooting done over the last 2.5 months, as well as talking to a lot of people. Even had a mechanic come on board at one point. So
it's been a constant thing, but I've got a couple more things I'm going to try actually. And we'll see how that pans out. Maybe we'll get it running. Fingers crossed.
I've made peace with it.
Actually,
more
yeah,
than once.
I mean,
because
so,
it can be very stressful, especially when we've been so used of having an engine, and all of a sudden you can't really rely on it to drop anchor and pick up anchor. But you know what? You can do anything without an engine. Like, it's crazy how much we've pushed our boundaries. Like, we've gotten into places which even sailors with engines tell us that they're scared of going into those places. Like Hatchet Bay in Luthra, for example. Narrow little passage. There's like a 90 foot channel that you have to go in between cliffs, and we pulled it off. So I keep impressing myself anyways, just realizing how we can do almost everything without an engine. So I guess I haven't been that worried about it anymore.
Yeah. I think my only stress regarding the engine is when we get back to the States, because there's a lot of motoring that's required. And the more, or if we go back to the States, I guess I should say, the more this virus affects things, I'm just worried that even if we do go back there, we won't be able to get the engine repaired, and we'll have to really sail into places that are very, very difficult to sail. So we'll play that by ear and try to figure out the best solution to that. If you guys have any suggestions on other ports and stuff that you can go, or little hurricane holes, we're definitely open to anything. I love hearing all sorts of ideas on where to go.
And you know what? The people way back when sailed all over the world without any engines and without any charts. So I'm really happy that we actually have navigation charts.
Yeah.
And Dan in Port Colborne, thank you so much for having suggested to use Aqua Maps, because with navigating with people, it's really good to realize that Aqua Maps is actually really accurate.
Yeah, Aqua Maps is awesome. I just realized we have less than a gig left. We went through way more data than I expected doing this, and anyway, so we might speed this along, and if we cut out, I'm very sorry. It's just because we ran out of data, and you know, maybe we'll do another live stream in the future to kind of touch on some more things. We might not get to the stories, whatever, it's not a big deal. But yeah, essentially we're worried. The concerns are we have lack of vessel storage because everybody is going to store their boats in places, and it seems like everybody's trying to get their hands on a spot to put their boat as fast as possible, which I totally understand. But it's also making it more difficult for, I guess, people that have chosen our route to try to stay away from the virus a little bit.
Yeah.
But that's our own fault. It's just that's the situation we're in.
So yeah, we might just have to sail all the way back to Canada, just following the U.S. coast, and then figure out something over there.
You know what? We've already gone through a lot of these. So,
Yeah.
again, thank you guys all for hanging out on this. This is awesome.
It's just so nice seeing how many people are part of our little community and seeing all the support and realizing how we're not that stupid. We've had some weird comments that have been bringing us myself really down. So it's nice to read all of your guys' comments and seeing the love.
Yeah, really appreciate it, guys. I just want to get into a couple stories since we've already kind of gone over concerns, or at least our concerns. The first thing I want to say stories is they're mostly all hearsay or things I've read and things that I guess have caused a bit of more fear and uncomfortable about this whole situation. One of those major things is a lot of sailboats being denied entry into places that they've already either quarantined into or they're just not allowed to go in general. And that of course worries us because, you know, anytime we need to get out of here, you know, as we've already discussed. Yeah. So I won't get into any details. There's lots of stories out there. If you're interested, just look them up. But there's definitely some people.
Facebook's full of them.
Yeah, Facebook is full.
And sailing, cruising pages.
One story that stands out quite a bit too is a cruiser getting locked into staying at a marina, being forced to pay a granted discounted rate at a marina and having no say in it. And these sort of things again worry us.
Yeah, it's a bit of a fear factor for us because you hear things and you worry that it might happen here. Especially that Corey and Cody had a bit of a fun adventure when we were in Georgetown, which made us really want to get out.
Yeah, I mean, somebody, I won't say who, but somebody with some I guess, knowledge and somebody who speaks with police in the area really gave us this impression that we were not allowed to leave Georgetown. We weren't allowed to go south, even if we had planned to go to a hurricane hole south. We were only allowed to head north if we were a U.S. citizen and not a Canadian citizen. And it just, this misinformation and like skewed facts is causing a lot of fear, and not just in us but in lots of people, and it's just not helpful. And that was another reason why we wanted to leave Georgetown. We didn't think that was I mean, not that it was the place, but this is just one interaction that we had with somebody.
It's just when you get told that you should stay, that you have to stay in this specific anchorage, even if there's a storm or a hurricane that happens, just didn't really make us excited, and it made us a little bit fearful, which is why we ended up coming back to Black Key here.
Yeah, I mean,
before we get locked down somewhere. Especially
when the person is telling you, despite hurricane season, despite what your insurance has to say about it, you have to stay here. I mean, we wanted to get out of there. It's just, I mean, especially when it wasn't like a government thing that somebody said, and like they're actually enforcing it, but somebody that supposedly is speaking with the police has said this. We did not feel, at least here, we're less likely to be stuck here. You know, we can still get out, head back to Canada or wherever we need to go. But if we're in a lockdown bay, we may not be able to do that, because there are people around the world that are locked down and have supposedly have to stay at anchor and have nowhere else to go. And we really don't want, I mean, it could happen, but we don't want that to happen.
Yeah, but we'll be staying in touch on Facebook and Instagram. Tends to be, actually Instagram is like the most up to date. Facebook, I'm posting pictures a little behind, and then YouTube is the one that's quite a bit more behind with the videos. But TKS, yes, we will have some footage of that motor when it stopped. But yeah, we'll try to just keep you all updated on everything, really, as much as we can. And
absolutely.
And if you guys hear some news, like sometimes we're a little bit behind with the whole world because we're getting most of our news as we connect on the internet with our data. So we might be missing out on a couple of things. Our family is also keeping us updated though.
So thank you guys so much. I think we have like 0.02 gigs left, so the stream might cut off any second. It might even already be stopped. So I just want to thank you guys all for joining the conversation. Please feel free to comment more. We'll be watching all the comments. And everybody stay safe out there. Please don't get sick, and if you do, take care of yourself.
And thank you again so much for the super chat. We will be buying more fruits and keeping us fully stocked up.
And whenever we do get alcohol, we'll see if we can get some of that too with the other super chat. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all.
Love
You're
you
awesome.
all. Sending you lots of warmth, health, and everything.
Be safe, guys.